From the art of Africa to your screen, this is Raw Tales Africa, where every story cuts deep. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications because it will mean the whole world to me. Now, let's get right into the story. Brace yourself. The rain hammered against the windows of the gleaming corporate boardroom as Kwame stood in his all-stained overalls, surrounded by men in three-piece suits. His callous hands trembled slightly as he faced the billionaire CEO across the mahogany table. "You are telling me," the billionaire said with ice in his voice, "that you expect me to remember every street mechanic who has ever touched my car? Do you know how many people work for me? How many favors I am asked for daily?" Kwame's wife, Amma, squeezed his shoulder, her eyes filled with tears. Their twin daughters sat quietly in the corner, their school uniforms patched and faded, watching their father's humiliation unfold. "Sir," Kwame whispered, his voice barely audible above the storm outside. 2 years ago, along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, your Rolls Royce broke down in the rain. You had no phone signal. I fixed it for free, gave you my food, my water." The billionaire's cold laugh echoed through the room. "And now, you think that entitles you to waltz into my office demanding handouts? Security!" But this story of pride, humility, and the true test of character began 3 months earlier, when a simple act of kindness would change everything. The sun had barely kissed the horizon when Kwame Asante opened the rusty gates of his auto repair shop in the crowded Alaba Market district of Lagos. At 35, his face bore the lines of a man who had fought life's battle with nothing but determination and callous hands. His workshop, barely large enough for 2 cars, was his kingdom, built from scraps, dreams, and 17 years of 18-hour days. "Papa, the breakfast is ready," called out his daughter, Akosua, her voice floating from the small room behind the shop where his family lived. At 12 years old, she was wise beyond her years, often acting as the second mother to her twin sister, Abena. Kwame wiped his hands on a rag that had seen better decades and walked into their humble home. The room served as kitchen, living room, and study area for his daughters. Amma, his wife of 15 years, stood over a small kerosene stove, stirring a pot of yam porridge with the care of a master chef preparing for royalty. "The school fees notice came yesterday," Amma said softly, not meeting his eyes. "They need the money by Friday or the girls can't write their final exams." Kwame's heart sank. The twins were brilliant students, both at the top of their class, both dreaming of university, both deserving of every opportunity life could offer. But opportunities required money, and money was something the Asante family had always fought to find. "How much?" he asked, though he dreaded the answer. 40,000 naira each, 80,000 total. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. Kwame made perhaps 15,000 naira on a good week. A very good week. Most weeks were not good weeks. "Papa, maybe we don't need to go to university," Akosua said, her young voice trying to sound mature. "I can learn to sew with Mama, help in the shop." "No." Kwame's voice was firm but gentle. "Education is the only inheritance I can give you. We'll find a way. We always do." But as he looked around their tiny home, at the patches on the wall where rain had leaked through, at the two school uniforms hanging on a wire that had to last another year, at his wife's worn hands that still managed to create miracles from nothing. Kwame wondered if hope alone would be enough this time. Meanwhile, across the city in Victoria Island, Chief Adebayo Olumide was facing a very different kind of morning. At 58, he was one of Nigeria's youngest billionaires, having built his construction and oil empire from a single contract 25 years ago. His penthouse apartment occupied the entire top floor of a 40-story building that bore his name. "The car is ready, sir," his driver announced as Chief Olumide adjusted his custom-made Italian suit in the mirror. The reflection showed a man who had everything, except the one thing money couldn't buy: peace of mind. His wealth had brought him enemies, fake friends, and countless people who saw him only as a source of money. Trust had become a luxury he couldn't afford. Every smile hid an agenda. Every compliment marked the request. Every act of kindness was performed for personal gain. As he descended to the underground garage where his collection of luxury cars waited like sleeping beasts, Chief Olumide made a decision that would change everything. Instead of taking his usual Mercedes with the driver, he would drive himself today. He needed to think, to remember what it felt like to be in control of something, anything. He chose the Rolls-Royce Phantom, midnight black, pristine, and worth more than most people would earn in a lifetime. The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway stretched before Chief Olumide like a ribbon of possibility. For the first time in months, he felt free. No bodyguards, no assistant scheduling his every breath, no board members arguing about quarterly projections. Just him, the road, and the purr of Rolls-Royce engine. He was making good time to his meeting in Ibadan when the first time of trouble appeared. A strange knocking sound from the engine. Chief Olumide frowned but continued driving. Rich men don't stop for every small noise. They push through. They overcome. But the Rolls-Royce had other plans. 50 kilometers outside Lagos, in a stretch of highway where the bushes grew thick and phone signals went to die, the magnificent machine rolled to a stop. Steam rose from under the hood like smoke signals announcing defeat. Chief Olumide sat in the leather seat, staring at the dashboard warning signs that blinked like Christmas decorations. He reached for his phone. No signal. He tried again, holding it high, pointing it in different directions. Nothing. The irony wasn't lost on him. Here he was, a man who could buy 100 cars with pocket change, stranded like any common traveler. For a moment, he almost laughed. Almost. That's when he heard the sound of an approaching motorcycle. Kwame had been returning from a house call, an old woman whose generator had refused to start. The payment was small, but every naira mattered. As he rounded the curve, he saw the massive black car sitting on the shoulder, steam rising from his hood like a cry for help. His first instinct was to keep driving. Rich people had insurance, roadside assistance, connections. They didn't need help from poor mechanics or motorcycles. But as he drew closer, he saw the man standing beside the car, middle-aged, well-dressed, but with the universal look of confusion that comes when technology fails. Kwame pulled over. "Good afternoon, sir. Car trouble?" Chief Olumide looked at the young man on the battered motorcycle. His clothes were clean but clearly second-hand. His motorcycle looked like it had been assembled from spare parts found in three different junkyards. But his eyes held something Chief Olumide hadn't seen in years: genuine concern for a stranger. The engine just stopped. Chief Olumide said carefully, "I think it is overheating." Kwame nodded and parked his motorcycle. Without asking permission, he walked to the front of the Rolls-Royce and gestured for the hood to be opened. As Chief Olumide pulled the lever, Kwame leaned in with the confidence of a man who spoke the language of machines. "Ah, I see the problem," Kwame said after a few minutes. "The water pump belt snapped. It's not a big repair, but without it, the engine can't cool itself." "Can you fix it?" Kwame considered the question. He had some spare belts on his motorcycle, but nothing designed for a Rolls-Royce. This would require improvisation, creativity, and about 2 hours of careful work. "I can try, sir, but I will need to use some materials from my workshop and it might take some time." Chief Olumide looked at his watch. His meeting in Ibadan was in 3 hours. If he missed it, the contract worth 200 million naira could go to a competitor. But what choice did he have? How much will it cost? Kwame looked at the expensive car, at the man's tailored suit, at the gold watch that probably cost more than his shop was worth. This was his chance. He could name any price and this rich man would pay it. He could solve his daughter's school fees problem right here, right now. Instead, he said, "Don't worry about payment, sir. Let me just help you get back on the road." Chief Olumide blinked. Had he heard correctly? "You don't want payment? You are stranded, sir. It's the right thing to do." And so began 2 hours that would test everything Chief Olumide thought he knew about human nature. Kwame worked with the focused intensity of a surgeon. He had rigged a temporary cooling system using materials from his motorcycle toolkit, fashioned a makeshift belt from reinforcement cables, and somehow quassed the Rolls-Royce engine back to life. But more than the repair, it was the conversation that captured Chief Olumide's attention. "You have family?" Chief Olumide asked as Kwame adjusted the tension on the improvised belt. "Yes, sir. 2 daughters, twins, 12 years old." Kwame's face lit with pride. "Both at the top of their class. Want to be doctors." "Doctors? That is expensive education." Kwame's hands paused for just a moment. "Yes, sir. Very expensive, but if God wills it, we'll find a way." And if God doesn't will it? The question hung in the air. Kwame continued working. He's very steady when he finally answered. "Then we'll find another way. Education is the only thing nobody can steal from you." As the repair progressed, Kwame shared his water bottle with Chief Olumide. When the sun climbed higher, he shared his lunch, bread and boiled eggs wrapped in newspaper, meant to sustain him through the long day. When Chief Olumide protested that he couldn't take food from a man who clearly had little, Kwame simply said, "Sir, hunger doesn't respect bank accounts. When you are thirsty, water tastes the same whether it comes from a golden cup or a plastic bottle." Chief Olumide found himself studying this stranger who showed him kindness without expecting anything in return. When was the last time someone had shared their meal with him? When was the last time someone had looked at him and seen just another human being in need of help? Your daughters, Chief Olumide said as Kwame made the final adjustments. What are their names? Akoso and Abena. They are good girls. They study hard, help their mother, never complain about what we don't have. Kwame's voice carried the universal tone of a proud father. Sometimes I worry I am not giving them enough. But Amma, my wife, she says love is the most expensive gift you can give a child. Your wife sounds wise. She is, sir, much wiser than me. She is the one who taught me that helping others isn't about having extra. It's about sharing what you have. 2 hours later, the Rolls Royce paused like a contented cat. Kwame had not only fixed the immediate problem, but had identified 2 other potential issues and corrected them as well. The car ran better than it had in months. How much do I owe you? Chief Olumide asked, reaching for his pocket. Nothing, sir. I told you. Just helping a fellow traveler. Chief Olumide insisted, but Kwame was firm. Sir, my mother used to say that kindness is like planting seeds. You don't plant them to harvest immediately. You plant them because it's the right thing to do and trust that somewhere, somehow, the harvest will come. As they parted ways, Kwame returning to Lagos on his patch motorcycle, Chief Olumide continuing to Ibadan in his perfectly functioning Rolls Royce. Neither man imagined that their paths would cross again, but life has a way of completing circles in the most unexpected ways. 3 months later, Kwame's worst fears had materialized. Despite working 7 days a week, taking on extra jobs and Amma doing seamstress work late into the night, they still couldn't raise the school fees. The deadline had passed. Akosua and Abena's names had been removed from the exam list. Maybe we can talk to the headmaster again, Amma suggested as they sat around their small table, the school notices spread before them like accusations. I've tried Amma 3 times. He says rules are rules. No payment, no exams. What about a loan? From who? The banks want collateral we don't have. The money lenders charge interest that would bury us. That's when Akosua spoke up. A 12-year-old voice carrying a weight that children shouldn't have to bear. Papa, maybe I can find the chief who helped us that day. The one whose car you fixed. Kwame looked at his daughter in confusion. What chief? 3 months ago, you came home late. You said you helped a big man whose car broke down. You said he was very grateful that maybe if we ever needed help. The memory came flooding back. The man in the expensive suit, the Rolls Royce, the way he had seemed genuinely moved by Kwame's kindness. He had given Kwame his business card and said, if you ever need anything at all, call me. Kwame had tucked the card away and forgotten about it. Rich people said things like that at all the time. It was politeness, not promise. But now, with his daughter's futures hanging in the balance, Kwame found himself searching through his old clothes until he found the card. Chief Adebayo Olumide, CEO, Olumide Construction and Oil Services, Victoria Island, Lagos. Maybe, Kwame whispered to himself. Maybe he meant it. The journey from Alaba Market to Victoria Island might as well have been a trip to another planet. Kwame had borrowed his neighbor's Lispa shirt, combed his hair with water, and practiced his speech a dozen times. But as his bus crossed into the gleaming business district, where glass stars scraped the sky and cars cost more than houses, his confidence began to crumble. The Olumide building stood 40 stories tall, its lobby filled with marble, chrome, and the kind of cold elegance that whispered, "You don't belong here," to anyone who wasn't wearing a suit worth more than a small car. Kwame approached the reception desk, where a young woman in perfect makeup looked at him like he had tracked mud on her wedding dress. "I'm here to see Chief Olumide," he said, trying to sound confident. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but..." "Then I can't help you. Chief Olumide doesn't see people without appointments." Kwame pulled out the business card. "He gave me these. He said if I ever needed anything." The receptionist glanced at the card like it might bite her. "Sir, Chief Olumide gives out hundreds of cards. It doesn't mean you can just walk in here expecting to see him. Please, it's about my daughters. They need help with school fees. He helped me once and I helped him. Maybe if you could just tell him Kwame is here, the mechanic from the Lagos-Ibadan road." The woman's expression shifted from annoyance to something approaching pity. "Sir, do you know how many people come here every day claiming they know Chief Olumide? Everyone has a story. Everyone has an emergency. I'm sorry, but without an appointment, there is nothing I can do." Kwame felt his carefully constructed courage beginning to collapse. But then, he thought of Akosua and Abena sitting at home, watching their dreams slip away because their father couldn't provide for them. "Please," he said again, "just tell him the mechanic who fixed his Rolls Royce. Tell him Kwame from Alaba Market. Tell him about the water pump belt." Something in his voice, perhaps the desperation that every parent understands, made the receptionist pause. She picked up the phone and spoke in low tones to someone upstairs. "Sir," she said after hanging up, "Mr. Johnson, Chief Olumide's assistant will see you. 40th floor." The 40th floor was another world. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of Lagos that made the city look like a toy model. Leather sofas that cost more than Kwame's entire shop sat arranged around coffee tables made from single pieces of polished granite. Mr. Johnson was a thin man in his 40s, wearing glasses that probably cost more than Kwame's motorcycle. His handshake was limp, his smile automatic and empty. "So, you are the mechanic who claims to know Chief Olumide?" "I don't claim to know him, sir. I helped him once. His car broke down on the Lagos-Ibadan road. I fixed it for free. And now, you want something in return?" The question stung because it was partially true. "My daughters, sir. They need school fees to write their final exams. I've tried everything else." Mr. Johnson leaned back in his chair, studying Kwame like a scientist examining an interesting specimen. "And you think because you did a good deed once, you deserve a handout?" "I don't deserve anything, sir. I'm just asking for help." Chief Olumide seemed like a kind man. He said if I ever needed anything. "Mr. Kwame," Johnson interrupted, "let me explain something to you. Chief Olumide is one of the richest men in Nigeria. Do you know how many people ask him for help every day? Hundreds. If he helped everyone who claimed to have done him a favor, he would be bankrupt in a week. Kwame felt his hope beginning to die. Can I just speak to him for 5 minutes? Please. Johnson stood up, signaling the end of the meeting. Chief Olumide is in meetings all day. Very important meetings about very important contracts. He doesn't have time to see every mechanic who thinks they are entitled to his money. I never said I was entitled. Good day, Mr. Kwame. Security will show you out. As Kwame was escorted to the elevator by a security guard who looked at him like he might steal the furniture, he felt a shame deeper than poverty. He had been foolish to come here. Foolish to believe that kindness meant something in a world of money and power. But he didn't know that Chief Olumide had been watching the entire encounter from his office security monitors. What Kwame didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that Chief Olumide remembered him perfectly. He remembered the broken down Rolls Royce, the young mechanic who refused payment, the shared water and simple food. He remembered the conversation about daughters who wanted to be doctors and the wisdom of a wife who understood that love was the most expensive gift. He had been testing Kwame from the moment he walked into the building. Chief Olumide had built his empire by understanding people, by seeing through their masks to their true motivations. He had been approached by thousands of people over the years, all claiming past connections, all asking for help. Most revealed their true nature quickly. The anger when refused, the attempts at manipulation, the threats when kindness failed. But Kwame had done something different. When refused and humiliated, he had simply left. No anger, no threats, no attempts to force his way past security. He had accepted rejection with the same grace he had shown kindness 3 months earlier. Sir, Mr. Johnson knocked on Chief Olumide's office door. The mechanic has left the building. What was his name again? Kwame something from Alaba Market. Claims you know him. Chief Olumide nodded slowly. And what did you tell him? The truth, sir. That you are too busy for people like him. That you can't help everyone who asks. Did he get angry? Johnson looked surprised by the question. No, sir. Actually, he seemed sad, like he was disappointed in himself, not in us. Chief Olumide turned to stare out his window at the sprawling city below. Somewhere down there, a good man was walking home to tell his daughters that their dreams would have to wait. Somewhere down there, a family was about to learn that kindness wasn't always rewarded, that doing the right thing didn't guarantee a happy ending. But Chief Olumide had one more test in mind. 2 days later, Kwame was walking under the hood of an old Toyota when he heard voices outside his shop. Customer voices, but different somehow. Cleaner, more educated. Excuse me, are you Kwame Asante? He looked up to see 3 men in business suits standing at the entrance to his small shop. They looked as out of place as penguins in the desert. Yes, sir. How can I help you? We are from Olumide Construction. We heard you are a skilled mechanic. Kwame's heart jumped. Had Chief Olumide remembered after all? Yes, sir. I do my best. We have a job for you. Our company fleet needs a full inspection and maintenance. 50 vehicles. It would be a very lucrative contract. The number made Kwame dizzy. 50 vehicles. That could mean more money than he had ever seen at once. Enough for school fees. Enough to expand his shop. Enough to change his family's life. However, the lead man continued. There is one condition. We need you to be completely honest about every vehicle. If you find problems, you report them. If you don't find problems, you don't invent them. Some mechanics, they see expensive cars and think they can cheat rich companies. We need to know you are honest. Sir, I have never cheated anyone in my life. Good. Because this contract could lead to bigger things. Much bigger. But only if we can trust you completely. They handed him an address in Victoria Island and told him to report the next morning at 8 a.m. As they left, Kwame felt like he was floating. Maybe his kindness on the Lagos-Ibadan road was finally paying dividends. Maybe Chief Olumide had remembered after all. That night, he told Hammer and the twins about the opportunity. For the first time in months, there was real hope in their small room. But the next morning would bring a test that would determine not just Kwame's future, but his understanding of what it truly meant to do the right thing. The Olumide construction compound was massive. Acres of gleaming vehicles, from luxury sedans to heavy construction equipment. Kwame had never seen so much expensive machinery in one place. The supervisor, a friendly man named Tunde, showed him around and explained the job. Start with the executive vehicles. Those ones over there. He pointed to a row of pristine cars that looked like they'd never seen dirt. Kwame spent the morning meticulously checking each vehicle. Most were in perfect condition, barely driven, professionally maintained, clearly expensive. By lunchtime, he had examined 20 vehicles and found virtually nothing wrong. That's when doubts began to creep in. These cars were too perfect. No wear, no minor issues, no signs of regular use. It was almost as if they had been specifically prepared for inspection. The thought made him uncomfortable. Was it some kind of test? Were they checking his honesty by giving him vehicles that didn't need work? Seeing if he would invent problems to justify higher bills? By the end of the day, Kwame had inspected all 50 vehicles. His honest assessment: they were in excellent condition and needed minimal work. Total value of necessary repairs: perhaps 20,000 naira across the entire fleet. It wasn't the life-changing windfall he had hoped for, but it was honest work, honestly done. He submitted his report to Tunde, who read it carefully and nodded. Interesting. Very interesting. Is there a problem, sir? No problem at all. In fact, you have passed with flying colors. Passed what? That's when Chief Adebayo Olumide himself walked into the garage. Kwame's knees nearly buckled. The man from the Lagos-Ibadan road, the owner of the broken down Rolls Royce, the billionaire whose assistant had turned him away just days before. Hello, Kwame, Chief Olumide said with a warm smile. I believe we have some unfinished business. Sir, I, you remember me? Remember you? My friend, I've been thinking about you for 3 months. Chief Olumide gestured for Kwame to sit on a nearby bench. Let me tell you what has been happening. 3 months ago, you showed me something I thought had disappeared from the world. Genuine kindness with no strings attached. You fixed my car, shared your food, refused payment, and expect nothing in return. Kwame nodded, still confused. When you came to my office 2 days ago, I watched everything on the security cameras. I saw how my assistant treated you, how security escorted you out, how you accepted rejection without anger or bitterness. And I realized something. You weren't asking for charity. You were simply hoping that kindness might be remembered. Sir, I don't understand. If you remembered me, why didn't you help me then? Chief Olumide's expression grew serious. Because I had to be sure. In my position, I am approached by hundreds of people every month. Everyone has a story. Everyone claims to deserve help. Most of them are lying or at least stretching the truth. I needed to know if you were real. So this job was a test. Those 50 vehicles were deliberately prepared to be in perfect condition. 3 other mechanics have done the same inspection in the past month. You know what they found? Kwame shook his head. Problems worth hundreds of thousands of naira each. Brake systems that needed complete replacement. Engines that required total rebuilds. Every single one of them tried to cheat me, assuming I wouldn't know better. Chief Olumide stood and placed a hand on Kwame's shoulder. But you reported exactly what you found. Virtually nothing wrong. You could have invented problems worth millions of naira, and I would have paid without question. Instead, you gave me an honest report worth 20,000 naira. Tears were forming in Kwame's eyes as the full picture became clear. Kwame Asante, Chief Olumide continued, you are exactly the kind of person this world needs more of, and I want to do something about that. He handed Kwame an envelope. Inside, you would find a check for your daughter's school fees, plus enough to cover their education through university. You will also find papers for a small business loan to expand your shop and a contract to maintain our entire company fleet, legitimately this time. Kwame's hands shook as he opened the envelope. The numbers were larger than he had ever dared to dream. But sir, why? Because 3 months ago, you taught me something I had forgotten. That goodness still exists in this world. You showed me that some people still do the right thing simply because it is right. In return, I want to show you that kindness, real kindness, never goes unrewarded. It just sometimes takes time for the reward to find its way home. As Kwame sat there, overwhelmed by gratitude and disbelief, Chief Olumide added one final thought. There is one more thing. I am starting a foundation to help children from poor families get quality education. I want you to help me run it. Who better to identify deserving families than someone who understands what it means to struggle with dignity? That evening, Kwame returned home to Alaba Market with news that would change his family's trajectory forever. As he told Amma, Akosua and Abena about the day's event, he realized something profound. The seeds of kindness he had planted on a lonely highway had grown into a tree of blessing that would shade generations. Akosua looked up at her father with shining eyes. Papa, does this mean we can become doctors now? Kwame pulled his daughters close, his heart full to bursting. Yes, my angels, you can become anything you want to be. But the greatest lessons of all came from what happened next. As word spread through Alaba markets about Kwame's good fortune, people began to change how they treated strangers. The story of the mechanic who showed kindness and received blessing became legend, inspiring others to help without expectation, to give without guarantee, to plant seeds of goodness in the faith that somewhere, somehow, the harvest would come. And Chief Olumide, he learned that the greatest wealth isn't measured in buildings or bank accounts, but in the ability to recognize goodness and reward it. He had tested Kwame's character and found it pure, but in the process, he had rediscovered something precious in himself: the joy that comes from lifting others up. 6 months later, the Kwame Asante Technical Institute opened its doors in Alaba Market, offering free automotive training to young people from poor families. Above the entrance, a plaque bore these words: "Kindness planted here grows into opportunity." And every year, on the anniversary of that raining day on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, Chief Olumide visits the institute to remind students of a simple truth: that good character is worth more than gold, and that the seeds of kindness, once planted, can grow into forests of blessing. Thank you for watching this incredible story of how one man's simple act of kindness changed not just his own life, but created ripples of goodness that continue to spread. What did you learn about Kwame's story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like this video if it touched your heart. Subscribe to Raw Tales Africa for more inspiring tales, and turn on post notifications so you never miss a story that could change your perspective on life. Until next time, keep planting seeds of kindness. You never know when they might grow into the blessing you've been praying for.